From Kern Government Television, welcome to this week's Kern County Board of Supervisors meeting, originating from the County Administrative Center located at 1115 Truxton Avenue, Bakersfield, California. Kern County's vision is to create and maintain a customer-centered county government designed to garner the confidence, support, and trust of the people we serve. Today's Kern County Board of Supervisors meeting will convene momentarily.
Good morning and welcome to the budget hearings. Today's Tuesday, August 27th, and the board to reconvene. The first item is roll call.
Supervisor Gleason?
Here.
Supervisor Scribner?
Here.
Supervisor Maggard?
Here.
Supervisor Couch?
Here.
Supervisor Perez?
Here.
Next item is the flag salute. It'll be led today by Supervisor Scribner, and please remain standing at the conclusion of that for a moment of prayer, silence, or meditation, whichever you prefer.
Please place your hand over your heart. Salute. Pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Before we get started today, I want to let you know that we have an interpreter available for anyone in the audience requiring translation of the proceedings from English into Spanish. Mr. Fernando Lopez, would you please come down to the podium so we can determine if your services are required? Good morning. And if they are, tell the folks what they need to do.
Si hay alguien que no habla inglés, solamente español, atrás en la mesa donde estoy sentado hay unos audífonos para que puedan escuchar. Gracias.
I'm sorry, hang on one second. I will. Additionally, we have Ms. Laura Meza. Laura, can you just wave your hand for us, please? She's in the front row. She's also available and will remain in the chamber for anyone requiring an interpreter to address the board during this morning's meeting.
Y también está presente Laura Mesa, que está aquí en la primera renglón, para interpretar a las personas sin micrófonos y tienen que dirigirse a la mesa directiva.
Thank you, Fernanda. And thank you, Laura. We're going to go a little bit, well, actually, we're going to do the pet of the week first. And I know this is your favorite part of the meeting, right?
No pressure.
This dog's name is Marvin. And believe it or not, I have the exact kind of dog at home, only smaller. Due to a series of decisions that I had nothing to do with, we ended up with this little guy, a little guy just like this, very cute. I can't believe that he's going to be adopted out. I could have saved a lot of money.
No pressure at all.
No pressure.
Yes, thank you for having me. Nick Cohen, Director of Kern County Animal Services. This week's Pet of the Week is Marvin. Hi, Marvin. Marvin is a 4-year-old Yorkie Terrier mix. He's a little scared this morning, but he's neutered and available for adoption today. He's going to make somebody a really good family pet. He loves to be held. That seems to be his thing. He's very alert and very curious. He's currently available at the Kern County Animal Shelter. Last week's Pet of the Week, Rocky, was adopted at 2 p.m. the day he was available, which was the day after Tuesday. So
we're four for... We're four.
no. Yeah, there you go.
Nick? We're 4 for 4, right? Sorry, Marvin, didn't mean to real. We're 4 for 4, and in honor of today's budget adoption, we're inviting you to adopt Marvin as well. I have. Thanks, Nick. Sorry we got so familiar there for a second. We're going to go a little out of order. We normally take the consent calendar first, but we're going to do items 1, 2, and 3 first today, and then we're going to come back to the consent calendar. Item 1 is on page 2, and it's public presentations. If there's anyone here that would like to address the board on any item that's not on the agenda today, but it's under the jurisdiction of the board, now is the time for you to do that. Is there anyone here that would like to make a public presentation? We just ask that you state your name and proceed. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, members of the board. Thank you for the opportunity to speak on the budget today. I am Francisco Martinez, social service worker with the Department of Human Services at OC Sills, and I am a constituent of District 2. I, like many of my coworkers, are extremely proud of the service that we provide to our community on a daily basis. This has been truly my life's work, and it's what I am passionate about. There really is no better feeling than knowing the impact I have left on someone's life, whether it be a child, a senior, or a single mother. Our community truly deserves the chance to obtain the best support we can offer, because when we do, the possibility to succeed for these folks is incredible. I've been up here to speak on many occasions by now, and I'm sure you know who I am and what I stand for. And to be honest, my passion is drawn by the incredible people I get to call my coworkers. Every day I see their commitment, their professionalism, and their diligent work ethic, and it's truly contagious. But like I've stated here before, I also see and understand their challenges. The challenges of struggling to keep up with the increasing cost of living, the challenge of putting food on the table and providing for our families, the challenge of knowing, and the struggle of knowing that not all of the concerns of our residents can be met. Our fight for a livable wage and the true investment to the adequate services our community depends on are serious, because we live it every day and we understand the vital needs. Although the recommended budget showcases some improvements to staffing, it does not do enough to solve the turnover and retention issues impacting all of us. As we move into the negotiations of a new contract, I encourage you, like others have today, to step into our shoes, learn firsthand the struggles of your constituents and your employees. Our coworkers have made it clear that we are ready to raise Kern County up and work for all of us. Together, we can make Kern County the best place to live, work, and raise a family. Thank you.
Thank you, Francisco. Are all of you here to speak on the budget? Those of you that are here, I'll tell you what, we're gonna do that, but how many of you are here to speak about the budget? Just raise your hand. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right. That is on the agenda, and we probably should be talking about that under item 99. That'd be the preferred way to do that?
Chairman, that's correct.
Okay. So I didn't know you were going to talk about the budget, Francisco. I apologize. I would have told you, but I didn't want to interrupt. So let's get through the budget or get through the budget presentation, and then we'll have time for the public to comment on the budget. And I believe that's under item 99. Okay. Thank you. Any other speakers to talk about, would like to make a public statement on anything that's not on the agenda? Not budget related. Okay, seeing none, I'll go to item 2, which is board member announcements and reports. Seeing none.
Chairman.
I'm sorry, Supervisor Perez.
Thank you.
Didn't see you.
Well, I wanted to say a big thank you to the county family, all who have signed up for our blood drive, which is this Friday. We are very concerned about getting enough to make it really valuable to Houchin and the folks that we know depend upon these kind of resources. But it has been a huge response from people like John Lifquist, of course, who has given year after year and encourages the people around him to do so, and so many others. I just want to say thank you. Also, a special thank you to Councilman Willie Rivera, who's providing box lunches for this Friday's donors, and of course 2 Fair Pass tickets, which are now $12 a piece in parking. So this is very good bartering system we've developed here for your blood, and we want to say thank you. And it looks like Friday is going to be another big success. So really, God bless you all. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Item 3 is the opening remarks on the fiscal year 2019-2020 recommended budget. Mr. Alsop.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Good morning. This morning, the proposed fiscal year 2019-20 budget for the County of Kern is submitted for your consideration. The proposal before you is the product of thorough deliberation by county departments and the county administrative office regarding the impacts, consequences, and alternatives of various budgetary actions. This proposal was prepared in accordance with statutory requirements of the county's Budget Act and demonstrates a commitment to the countywide vision and strategic initiative set by your Board of Supervisors. This final budget proposal includes budgets for the county, board, governed special districts, and other agencies of the government that are overseen by your Board of Supervisors, Today, we are asking your board to adopt a resolution approving Kern County's fiscal year 2019-20 budgets, as well as officially ending your board's declaration of fiscal emergency. This budget represents the highly anticipated end to a 4-year strategy by your board to resolve deficits stemming from property tax declines since 2016-17. This budget closes the structural deficit in the general fund and keeps us squarely on a path to close the structural deficit in the fire fund in the near future. The recommended budget before you today is balanced through the reduction of expenses and the use of one-time fund balance. As a policy practice, one-time resources will only be used in the context of a larger plan to balance ongoing revenues and costs over a multi-year period. Importantly, our projected total use of county reserves for the 4-year deficit mitigation plan is $24 million less than was originally planned, primarily the result of higher property tax revenues and greater use of fund balance carry forward. During the declared fiscal crisis, we have avoided mass layoffs as a remedy to quickly align revenues with expenses. We've continued to provide thousands of our employees their annual salary step increases of 5% when those increases were merited. We've worked with our labor partners and our department's leadership to address staffing and compensation needs where we have been able. We've maintained critical service levels to the best of our ability, particularly for those who are most in need across our county. Members of the board, despite the great achievement in budgeting the past 4 years with the help of an improved revenue outlook, the county's fiscal stability will continue to be challenged by rising labor costs, primarily related to pension cost increases, rising direct aid costs, staffing, recruitment, and retention issues, especially for public safety, along with needed investment in many deferred maintenance projects that we have throughout the county. We're in the process of mitigating the deficit in the fire fund, which is being perpetuated now, primarily by pension cost increases for those safety personnel. We have a growing crisis with homelessness that will require all of our highest attention. We must continue to be disciplined in the business decisions that we make. We must continue to follow through with implementing measures to save money where we are able. And we must continue to ensure that all of our employees who will be helping us do this in the coming years understand why such efforts are a necessity. I'd like to thank the board for your strong, proactive leadership during the last 3 years during financially challenging times. Under your leadership, the county has made tremendous progress toward fiscal health and stability. And as always, I would like to thank all of our department heads, I think all of whom are in the audience with us today, all of our employees, our budget team in the CAO's office for all the work that they've put in to deliver today's recommended budget, along with everything that everybody's done over the past 3 years in helping our county get into the fiscal position that we find ourselves in today. And with that, I'd like to introduce Ms. Anderson of my office, who will walk you through some more budget detail.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. The county budget includes numerous funds and totals $2.9 billion. This is an increase of more than $39 million from last fiscal year. The budget funds 8,085 positions, which is 149 positions more than last fiscal year. This chart shows the same information in a different format. Special revenue funds such as behavioral health and recovery services, roads, Department of Human Services, and the Fire Department, to name a few, comprise the largest budgetary category, totaling nearly $1.6 billion. The second largest category is the general fund, totaling $873 million, and funds many county operations. This is a decrease of $21.5 million, or 2.4% from last fiscal year's adjusted budget, which includes prior year maintenance and capital projects that are not reflected in the adopted budget. Budgeted staffing of 8,085 positions includes additions of 136 positions associated to non-general fund departments funded by the state and federal programs, of which 60 are related to behavioral health and recovery services and 41 are for the Department of Human Services. General fund staffing is increasing by 13 positions, a majority of which are related to public safety. The county's $2.9 billion budget is funded through various resources. The greatest resource at nearly 23% is state and federal funding. Property and sales tax comprise 17.2% of the budget. This slide shows the expense side of the budget. The greatest expense for all funds are operating expenses at 41.9%, or $1.22 billion. The second largest spending category is for staffing expenses at 33.4%, or $980 million. The county budget funds many services throughout the community. The largest spending area for the total budget is public protection at 29.3%. Remember, this is in relation to all funds, not just the general fund. The second largest spending area is related to public assistance, such as Department of Human Services, Aging and Adult Services, Employers Training Resources, and Community Development. The fiscal year 19-20 budget includes funding towards many areas of priority for your board and of interest to the community groups. Some of the highlights are as follows. Enhancing the quality of life for Kern County residents is one strategic initiative of your board. The budget allocates $859.6 million to public safety. This includes an $11.1 million increase in net county costs, primarily for the sheriff's office. Additionally, $2 million in equipment funding for the fire department and another $2 million in reserves are set aside for recruitment and retention of public safety personnel. Your board has supported homelessness initiatives as a priority for the community. $2 million has been set aside for low-barrier housing projects. The budget also includes parks improvement projects across all districts totaling $2.8 million. Library services are maintained at current hours, and funding for spay-neuter programs and the purchase of a modular building for the animal services is included. The budget also has a $3.2 million increase in federal funding to promote workforce development opportunities. Modeling excellence in managing business and people is another strategic initiative of your board. The budget balances the general fund with the highly anticipated resolve of the deficit related to property tax losses. It promotes recruitment and retention of critical public safety positions. It includes the addition of 41 positions at DHS to better serve the public. It includes $10 million in health benefit rate reductions related to new legacy administration plans. It funds consulting services to enhance countywide grant opportunities, and it continues to set aside funds for pension cost escalation, all while using zero reserves for operations. Fostering a culture of innovation is also a strategic initiative of your board. The budget continues to promote Lean Six training and encourages department efforts. It includes benefits of the Advanced Kern program and Office of Economic Adjustment funding for economic diversification in East Kern. It funds efforts towards an outreach strategy for an accurate 2020 census count, and it includes funding to replace the county's aging HR, payroll, and financial system and the countywide public safety communication system. These are only a few of the many positive attributes the recommended budget proposes, but clearly demonstrates the commitment of your board to its countywide vision and strategic initiatives. The general fund is the main operating fund of the county and totals $872.8 million. Public protection incurs the greatest spending authority and comprises 52.8% or $458 million of the general fund total budget. General government and public assistance share the second greatest spending level at 16.8% each. The general fund budget is funded by many sources, including those we call discretionary sources that pay for operations of the county not paid by state or federal sources. Property tax revenue comprises 65.2% or $284 million of the $435.5 million discretionary total. Historically, this revenue source has been volatile and has contributed budget gaps for the general fund over the past 4 years. Sales and other taxes comprise about $55 million of the discretionary total. The county has benefited from one-time use tax projects such as wind, road, and solar construction that have led to higher than base receipts for this revenue over the past several years. However, we are seeing a decline in that activity. It is important to note that while the county collects property and sales tax revenue for discretionary use, a significant portion of it is needed for required matches to receive state and federal funding and debt and contractual obligations. State and federal aid and fees collected for services must be spent on specific programs. Only about 37% of the total general fund budget at $872.8 million allows for some discretion by your board, and even then, levels of statutory mandates have to be considered. The general fund budget includes the allocation of $437.4 million in discretionary sources to departments and reserves. This is referred to as the net county cost. The amount available for allocation is directly related to property tax, sales tax, and other discretionary resources. Public protection departments receive the largest allocation in net county cost at $228 million, or 52.2% of the total. Within that group, the sheriff's office receives the largest share of $128 million, or 56% of the amount allocated to public protection departments. The $228 million allocation to public protection departments is $11.1 million more than last fiscal year. Most non-public safety departments incurred reductions of net county cost allocations of 0.7%, totaling $2.6 million as part of the county's 4-year mitigation plan. The 4-year deficit mitigation plan for the general fund approved by your board in fiscal year 2016-17 is coming to an end as originally planned. Over the 4-year plan, departments have incurred $34.2 million in net county cost reductions, or 11.7%, and the budget has been balanced with the use of $45.4 million in one-time fund balance carry forward and $9.6 million in reserves. This does not include amounts allocated to the fire fund. The rebound of property tax revenue is a significant contributor to the success of the plan, with less use of reserves and department reductions than anticipated. In fiscal year 16-17, the assessed values for the county dropped to a low of $85.4 billion, which contributed to the $44.5 million deficit for the general fund and $17.8 million deficit for the fire fund. Since that time, while oil property values remain low, residential, commercial, and agricultural property values have grown significantly. Fiscal year 1920 reflects the highest net assessed valuation to date of $98.6 billion. While property tax revenue has recovered to previous levels, the growth is not enough to cover the escalating benefit costs the county has been challenged with for many years. This chart shows the growth of actual salary and benefit costs for all funds since fiscal year 2010-11, comparing fiscal year 15-16, which is the year before the significant property tax loss, to the fiscal year 18-19 actuals is quite telling. Health benefit costs grew by $6 million, retirement grew by $12 million, and salaries grew by $27 million. This growth in cost was all during the time the general and fire funds had lost $63 million in property tax revenue combined. Retirement costs are once again increasing for fiscal year 19-20, primarily for safety departments. The budget includes pension cost increases of $3 million for general fund departments and $1.1 million for the fire department. We continue to look towards the future and what lies ahead for the county budget. Some of the most significant issues we are looking at is it is imperative that the structural deficit for the fire fund be resolved. The department is working on a strategic plan and intends to hire a fiscal director to assist with that planning. We will need to assess the impacts of any actuarial changes proposed by the retirement board that would affect the fiscal year 2021. We need to negotiate fiscally sound, sustainable labor contracts that are affordable. We need to identify the financial impacts of the minimum wage increases to our workforce, and we need to assess the adoption, foster care, and general assistance direct aid growth increases impacting the general fund. In conclusion, all departments have indicated concurrence with the recommended budget presented to your board today. The budget promotes the board's directives and priorities that have been discussed at 4 public meetings since June. It balances the allocation of available resources in a prudent, thoughtful manner. It considers future fiscal challenges impacting the county, and it resolves the deficit related to property tax losses for the general fund. That concludes my comments, and we'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Any questions from the board at all? Is now the time for public comment? Okay. I think I said item 99. I meant item 3. A little off. So, those of you that are here that would like to make a comment on the budget, on this year's budget, please come forward. State your name and proceed. And we're still going to try to adhere to our 2-minute time frame.
I'll
Thank
be
you.
below that. Good morning, members of the board. My name is Jim Starr. I'm a constituent of District 1. I'm an IT technician with behavioral health and been with the county for over 3 years. As you deliberate on your budget decisions today, I believe it's important to recognize diligent efforts of both the ongoing and upcoming negotiation with various labor groups that ensure our county is both healthy and safe. We stand fully in support of our labor colleagues. Although the latest recommended budget does include and adding the additional staff, it does not address the financial struggles impacting our workers. It does not provide solutions to the continued stagnant wages that are plaguing our inability to properly keep qualified staff with the county. The addition of the new staff simply will not solve the recruitment and retention challenges due to the uncompetitive wages offered by our county. It does not address the costs associated with the turnover, the money wasted on the revolving door that has become our county. We do, however, feel strongly that there's real interest from you as elected members of this board to work together with us, the workers, to support the needs of the residents, our coworkers, and families. I am hopeful that as we move into the negotiations of our contract in coming weeks, you'll continue to express interest in the daily work that many of us face along with our challenges. Some of you on the board have already shown the interest in walk-a-days. I applaud you on that. And we offer anybody that also wants to do that to come out and walk in our shoes. I look forward to the upcoming conversation that we'll have on how we can support not only the workers of the County of Kern, but all the residents we serve. I want to thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. If I didn't say it, I'm going to say it now. We are opening the public hearing. And that comment was heard under the public hearings. Thank you. And the public hearing is still open. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I am Susan Price, a Human Services Tech at the Department of Human Services, and I'm a constituent of District 2. I would like to start by echoing my colleagues who have also spoken here today in extending an open invitation to members of this board to meet the faces who make our county function by participating in a walk-a-day. To be clear, our continued efforts at these public meetings, and especially the budget hearings, have always been and will continue to be the vital needs of our community. Along with the many community members that share their comments here related to the budget, our goal is to ensure our residents have access to quality public services that enable them to thrive as members of Kern County. However, for too long, our very own employees have struggled to provide the adequate support for their families and themselves. I'm going to repeat that. However, for too long, our very own employees have struggled to provide the adequate support for their own families and themselves. As residents of employees of Kern County, we are concerned because we know firsthand what it takes to ensure the safety and health of our residents And based on the recommended budget presented today, many of those that depend on our services will continue to fall through the cracks, while our coworkers continue to struggle to keep up. We must address the revolving door impacting our county workers. And it begins with putting forth competitive financial packages that attracts and retains the best. We cannot continue to fall further and further behind while the needs of for services rises. Our members are ready to come to the table to find real solutions that benefit the needs of our community and look forward to the same commitment from you.
Thank you.
So today, hundreds of workers and community members have signed a petition regarding to support the investments to vital services, and I'll present that to you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I look forward to working with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Who'll be next?
To our great supervisors, I'd like to say my name is Curtis James Bingham Sr., servant of our Lord and Savior, God Almighty Jesus Christ. Thank you for in God we trust. Our Lord told us to bless our leaders too, and I would say all 5 of you up there will be considered the best and the elite. And I also like to say some of your department heads, that's what they're trying to be too, the best and the elite. We can come up here and talk all day long, but you know it takes money, money, money. In today's paper, front page, downtown BPD, they're rejoicing. The city's rejoicing because that 1% went through, and they get more money than they thought they was going to get. That's on the headlines today. So I'm just saying, I would love to see something like that come through, but it's going to take everybody this time to help. Nobody really helped out our sheriff. He needs a lot of help on this, and it can go through. It'll bless the people. You'll be the happiest supervisors ever. Sheriff Department happy. The public will be happy because the law can get out there. They can call, can you just drive down the streets for us? We got somebody just standing here. They'll be able to do things like that. If we get that 1% through on ours. You got the casino. If you got that, you got well over $1 billion to make everything better. And I guarantee you, you would not be as happy as you have been since you've been a supervisor. And another thing I'd like to say, our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ is known throughout the world for dying on the cross for man's sins. The only groups you got doing that is our law enforcement, the fire department, and put the district attorney in there too, because when they got to get people on their case, a lot of people don't like that. But they're actually putting their lives on the line, giving their lives so we can keep ours. So that's got to be a permanent fixture in our hearts and our mind. Every time they come up, these people are truly out there doing like the Lord is doing. That's why the Lord called them in Romans chapter 13, his ministers, because they putting their life on the line like he did. Now that is the truth. And that was written before we was born. And we got to recognize and respect them and try to get them what they need. See, they know right now exactly how much money they need to be the best, to be the elite. They make and do with what they're given. But let's get this thing together where they can come happily and just say what they really need to keep their department on top, like you on top. Thank you.
Thank you.
Supervisor, I'm on time. I got you. Pray God bless you, okay? Thank you, sir.
Have a good day.
I'm trying to get better.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning, board, chairman, or chairman and board. I'm just here today to just acknowledge and thank the board and the staff that has been working with the groups that we've been meeting on a one-on-one basis, but also having conversations of what does it mean for us to have healthy communities in our disadvantaged communities that we currently work in. And so a lot of the advocacy that we've done is around parks, and we've seen that investment reflected in the budget, and we are truly grateful for it because we understand that having more green spaces means having a more healthier neighborhood, meaning healthier communities, and that will be reflected in our health as well as in the health of our children, which are the future of Kern County. And so as we continue to work together collaboratively, I hope so in the future for budget, general plans, and et cetera, we hope to continue this collaboration and the understanding, the mutual understanding, right, our what is important to us, and also understanding where you're coming from. And so with that, we'd like to thank you, and just really we're looking forward to continuing this working relationship. Thank you.
We know you, but could you state your name for the record, please?
Sorry.
Yep.
Jasmine Del Aguila with Leadership Council for Justice and Accountability.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Gema Perez from Greenfield Working Group and Comunidades Unidas. This morning, I promised to Matt Constantine from Health Public Department to speak in English, and I accept that challenge. My English is not good, but I think it's easy to say thank you, but this thank you is with all my heart. Thank you, Supervisor Scrivener, for having us in your office some days ago. With your support, we can improve our parks, our communities, and our families. Thank you again, and have a good day.
Thank you. Don't let anybody tell you your English is no good.
Practice makes perfect.
Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Monica Fitzgerald. I'm a former employee, an 18-year employee of the Kern County Department of Human Services. And as I stand here, kind of nervous about sharing my speech, I think about the vulnerable children that child welfare social workers meet on a daily basis, and the fear that they must have with meeting a stranger such as myself and opening up about the terrible things that happen in their home. I'm here today on behalf of the families, individuals, children, and employees of child welfare to say that they deserve better. I'd like to ask the Board of Supervisors, what makes you vulnerable? Is it a child with a fractured skull, lacking oxygen to the brain, vision impaired? Is it a child, a 4-year-old little girl that's asked to provide a drug test for her parent so that her parent can pass and not be in fear of Child Protective Services? Is it a toddler that has herpes, a rectal tear? What is it that makes you vulnerable? Is it that family member, that mother, that has her face bashed in the wall, a gun held to her head, blood splattered around her home while her children are sitting against the wall asking in fear of what's gonna happen next? For the community and for child welfare services, I tell you what makes us vulnerable is the integrity that comes with the job of being a public servant and the vulnerable population that we serve. I ask you to think about in the budget of 2019-2020 about the social workers of child welfare that go out into the community on a daily basis and protect the children of this county. Despite them not being public safety employees, they reduce the rates of suicide, homelessness, unemployment rates. Sometimes homelessness results in panhandling of children. Homelessness that fills the shelters, the hospitals, and the streets of Bakersfield. We reduce calls to fire department because oftentimes we're responding to calls where families are squatting in the community and they're using candles as a form of heat and a form of light. We reduce calls to law enforcement because we're the ones out responding to allegations of abuse, and we're mitigating those concerns to prevent law enforcement from having to go out in the field. Oftentimes we're showing up to people's homes of parolees and probationers without the support of law enforcement, not because they're not supportive of us, but because we try to, utilize our own resources ourselves and go out and not waste their time. Not that it would be a waste of time, but we contribute to all areas of safety in this county. We're the front, the back, the middle line of every organization of this county. We make an impact in this community. As a Board of Supervisors, your mission and vision states that you're to create and maintain a customer-centered county government designed to garner the confidence, support, and trust of the people that we serve.
Ms. Fitzgerald,
yes.
could I ask you to bring your statement to a close?
Yes.
Thank you.
And you state to enhance the quality of Kern County by protecting and servicing our citizens. I would like you to demonstrate your devotion and your commitment in the budget of 2019-2020 and direct it towards the child welfare social workers because they deserve it. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Chairman, can I ask?
Certainly.
Can I ask your name?
Monica Fitzgerald.
Monica Fitzgerald. Would you mind giving your contact information to my CAO right there? I'd like to communicate with you after the meeting. Yeah. Thank you. And thank you for your passion and for what you do. You are a remarkable talent, and I think we need to continue to work together to understand our worlds better and improve the plight of all of us. And I'm really moved by you today. So thank you for what you're doing.
Good morning.
Hi, good morning. My name is Diana Mireles, and I'm from the Comité Progreso de Lamont. And I just want to say, beside my other partners for Comunidades Unidas, they already say thank you for the budget, but I want to say thank you for all the grants that you guys have submitted for our communities in disadvantage. So I hope all these projects can be finished, not sooner, but in a couple of years. So thank you for all your time you guys have, each of you with us, and all in general the staff. I don't want to say names because probably I forget somebody, but everyone. So in Comunidades Unidas, the Comité Progreso, we want to say thank you for everything and hope we can continue work with you. Thank you.
We should include a picture of her in our grant applications.
Yeah. Well, actually, all my work is just for her because my daughters they're already old. So, but my advocacy is just for my grandchildren. Thank you.
You bet. Good morning.
Good morning. Gustavo Aguirre with Center on Race, Poverty and Environment. Just to acknowledge and just let you know, the board and your agencies, that we appreciate the opportunity that we had to talk to several of the agencies, most of either the supervisors or your staff. We appreciate that. We didn't get everything, but we see that, some of the community's priorities were included. Beside the budget, we acknowledge that there are several grants applications that will cover the priorities of the communities if approved. So we just want to acknowledge that and warn you that you're not going to stop seeing us. We are going to continue contacting you and getting engaged, because we notice that being engaged, the communities get more than being quiet. So thank you, and you'll see us.
Look forward to it. Thank you. Who'll be next? Or are there others that would like to speak? If you'd like to speak to the budget, please come down. Get you to come to the front row so we can get you to the microphone quickly. Yes.
Good morning, County Council. Rudy Gonzalez, Department of Defense Specialist, Domestic Violence Certified and Reintegration Coordinator for our Veterans Program. I thank you for passing my first proposal, 2016, with conjunction with Jacqueline Campbell, followed by Dr. Dodge. Currently, we have a great need and appreciation for our veteran services to be provided a family advocacy program. Battered child syndrome was established by Dr. Dodge at Duke University, 1962. Mental battered child syndrome and mental battered spousal syndrome is not provided a service right now in our community, with a great need for many, many obvious reasons, and particularly the support morally for our service members to come back. Currently, I'm in the process of putting together a due process program to assist our diversion program for our men and women who sometimes, as incarcerated, have a difficult time readjusting. That one is almost detrimental and almost unrecoverable. With the DOI, currently in regards to budget capacity, with our I headed a program also. I was sent to Sacramento. We ended a subcultural indifference for our people, the Mexican American, Southern and Northern California Mexican Americans have now embraced. This embrace has happened in 2016. Since then, we've had a huge increase in interest. As you well know, our finances, we are currently seated fourth in our globe economically. I've met with the director and the coordinators of both the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce and the Mexican American Opportunity Foundation in conjunction for capacity space for these purposes to allow tribal funding to be available. With the census here now, the hard-to-count population would be better served, and we have tremendous funds in our DOI funding. Claiming Native American, promoting Native American would work in conjunction with the share stockholders and the stockholding availability
Sir,
with our Hard Rock Cafe approaching.
Could I get you to bring your statement to a close, please?
Sir, yes, sir.
Thank you.
In closing, I would just like to please thank you in consideration with these events that we are bringing to the community, including reopening the Portrait of a Warrior Gallery, and the DBA would greatly appreciate it.
Thank you.
I thank you very, very much in consideration for these proposals. Thank you.
Who'll be next? Didn't you just retire?
Yeah, I did. I was here last week. My name's Sonia Bennett, and recent retiree, active member of SEIU. Last week, your board voted on an increase for an assistant director at the planning department, I believe, which amounted to about $26,000 a year. I hadn't planned on speaking today, but that's resonated with me. I'm sure he doesn't have issues with childcare. I'm sure he doesn't have issues with transportation or the day-to-day issues of paying your electric bill or medical bills. But we represent a lot of county employees that are going to be impacted by minimum wage increases. That $26,000 could go a long way. As we go to the table this Friday, please be aware that our members have been discussing this particular item online. And they'll have that in their minds as we talk about increases or decreases or any kind of improvement to their financial situations. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Good morning. Sorry, I wore my good clothes today. Hello, y'all. Good morning. Thank you all very much for your service time and most of all, your service. One of you may need to step down because you're costing us way too much money. Our first responders do an awesome job, and it's a thankless job. My other speech was stolen, so now I have to wing it. Just here to say thank you. Keep on keeping on. Where are we at with the high-speed rail and the Boys and Girls Club and more stuff for kids to do? And go Condors and the Dodgers to go to the World Series.
Any other speakers today? Seeing none, is the appropriate action to close the public hearing before we move on? Okay, so I'm going to close the public hearing, and I'm going to ask for a motion to adjourn as the Board of Supervisors and to reconvene as the Kern Sanitation Authority. But we're not adopting any budget yet.
So moved.
Second.
Please cast your votes.
The motion is approved. All ayes.
Okay, we're now sitting as the Kern Sanitation Authority. There is one item, it is a consent item. That's the to approve the budget as printed for the Kern Sanitation Authority. Is there anyone here that would like to, it's a consent item, would anyone like to remove that item for separate consideration or make a comment about that item? Seeing none, I'll return to the board for a motion to approve that budget and to adjourn as the Kern Sanitation Authority and reconvene as the Ford City Taft Heights Sanitation District.
So move.
We have a motion
I'll second.
and a second. Please cast your votes.
Motion is approved. All ayes.
Okay, we're now sitting as the Ford City Taft Heights Sanitation District. That C5 is the consent item for the budget for that entity. Is there anyone here that would like to remove that item or make a comment about that item for separate consideration? Seeing none, I'll return it to the board for a motion on the budget for Ford City Taft Heights Sanitation and to adjourn as such and to reconvene as the In-Home Supportive Services Public Authority.
Motion. Second.
Please cast your votes.
Motion is approved. All ayes.
We're now sitting as the IHSS Public Authority. Item C6 is the budget for that entity. Is there anyone here that would like to make a comment on that item, remove it for separate consideration? Seeing none, I'll return to the board, ask for a motion on the budget for the IHSS Public Authority and to adjourn as such and to reconvene as the Board of Supervisors.
So moved.
Second.
Please cast your votes. We're now-
Motion is approved. All ayes.
Sorry, thank you. We're to page 3. All the rest of the budget, which consists of items 7 through 98, 100 through 105, and item 107 are on consent as well. Is there anyone here that would like to remove any of those items for separate consideration or make a comment about any of those items? I went just to check, double check and make sure. Did I just read the item numbers? I thought so. Okay. Thank you, Kathy. Keep. Seeing none, I'll return it to the board, and we have, can we make these all in one motion? Or do you prefer a couple of separate ones? But I'm going to read the action, recommended action into the record. I don't recall.
Mr. Chairman, for item 99, I can read those, and then you can
Okay.
approve on one motion.
Please do.
Is that the last item?
I'm sorry? That's what she's reading. I'm sorry. I've asked for comment on all those items, and item 99 is what she's about to read into the record for a vote.
However, I need to record a motion and a vote on all of the consent agenda items, and then we move to item 99. It is a separate agenda item off consent.
So you need a motion on the consent calendar items that I read into the record.
That is
Okay.
correct.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk, is that items 7 through 98?
And 100 through 105 and 107.
Okay. I'll make that motion.
This is not the budget, correct, Chairman?
This is the budget. I'm sorry, it's the consent calendar that are the budget items.
Right, but not the big one, because we need to comment on that.
We have a motion by
Second.
Supervisor Scrivener, a second.
Oh, I'm
Discuss.
sorry, I think Supervisor Gleason seconded.
We have 2 seconds at least. We're good. Please cast your votes.
We got it covered, Dick.
That's 3. Yeah.
Thank you. The consent agenda is approved. All ayes.
Now we're on to item 99, which is the closing actions and the budget adoption. We'll close the public hearing, and I'll return it to Ms. Anderson for her comments.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, to adopt the budgets of the County of Kern, it is recommended that your board close the public hearing and adopt the amended resolution approving the 1920 budgets for the County of Kern and ending the declaration of fiscal emergency. Adopt the resolution approving the 1920 Employers Training Resource and Community Development Grant Programs. And finally, adopt the resolution amending the salary ordinance as found on Appendix B, Summary of Positions, Additions, and Deletions, and refer to the Human Resources Division to amend the departmental salaries, positions, and salary schedule. These recommendations may be approved by your board in one action by motion to move on staff's recommendation.
You need to open it up. We need to open it up for public comment on that action as well. Is anyone here that would like to make a comment on that, on item 99? Seeing none, I return to the board for a motion as outlined by Ms. Anderson.
I punched in, Chairman.
I'm sorry, Supervisor Perez.
Thank you so much. Each time we have these budget hearings, and this was no news to anyone, we hear from employees who are frustrated, many of whom have a decade now of which they have not seen really material improvement in their lot. And we have worked valiantly to address this issue. We've made big cuts. Mostly our department heads have had to deal with that uncomfortable reality, and we're so grateful for it, of course. But I hear all these members of the workforce who come down and are pleading with us, I mean, at this point, begging, it feels, for an improvement in their lot because of the non-material impacts on their job and on the people they so love and serve. And so I don't know how to respond to that in a way that addresses our fiscal reality, of which we all know because we've been trying to climb out of it for some time. And there's been remarkable cooperation in so doing. But how do we respond to this reality and not make promises we can't follow through on, or that are not good for the county's overall financial well-being, but is not disregarding of people that I think are so authentically concerned about the people they serve, and of course their own personal lot. We know 78% of the country lives check to check, and that is a brutal reality of which I think many of us are not as intimate with as some of the folks we hear from the podium. So I would like to see this body address these folks and give them a sense of when we think we will turn the corner on this issue, because we know what our financial situation is. I trust you two entirely, and I know what you're telling me is the truth, and I know how much you love and are devoted to Kern County. But I am really concerned about the condition of our workforce, about their sense of hope about the future, and their sense that this body cares at all. And so those are some of my thoughts. We don't have to have that conversation today. We know what our fiscal situation is. I so appreciate the brilliance by which you have guided us, Nancy. Ryan, I think, has done a really exceptional job of keeping the county family together despite our myriad of individual interests, and I appreciate that. But I would like to say I think we're in crisis with many of our departments with the way they feel about the future, and I think that is bad for Kern County, it's bad for business, it's bad for public safety. And so those are just some of my thoughts. I want to thank all of our county leaders and family who really care about what you do and the people that you serve. We're all in a tough situation. But I would like to see some more sensitivity to those issues and ways in which we can be creative. And that's all of us. That's not a budget issue. It's a culture issue. And I just wanted to share some of those thoughts with you and convey to the public that there is a lot of concern about the overall well-being and balance of this county. And whether we like it or not, it does involve the homelessness issue. It does involve the casino and everything in between. It is all part of our county, part of our community. So those are some thoughts I would humbly submit to my colleagues, and thank you, Chairman, for the moments.
Certainly. Supervisor Scribner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Supervisor Perez, thank you for your comments. I think all of us realize that we wouldn't be up here celebrating the fact that we've closed a fiscal deficit, found so many ways to streamline county government if it wasn't for all of our employees working so hard, and in many cases doing more because of the fact that we've closed this deficit largely through attrition. As people leave county service, we don't fill those positions, and so that means that we've had less employees in our ranks. But I do think it's important for us to recognize that where we've been able to, we have tried to address our retention issues. We have tried to provide increases in wages where we've seen a strategic need to do so for retention. It's been very, very difficult to provide any kinds of increases while we're also cutting. And we talked about closing this fiscal deficit without any layoffs, which is an incredible thing that we were able to accomplish. And we did that through strategically not filling positions and, as I said, finding ways to streamline through Lean Six Sigma, finding ways to diversify our economy. And so all of those things together, I think, have allowed us to close a $44.5 million structural deficit in 4 years using less reserves than we thought we were going to have to. And so those are definitely successes. But all of us know that our employees are the reason that we were able to accomplish all those things. The board provides the policy framework, but it's up to the rank and file employees to actually deliver on all those. But I do think it is important for us to acknowledge the things that we have done for members of SEIU, since we had several of them here stating that they haven't seen pay raises in quite some time. And across the board, COLA, it has been quite some time since you've seen that, but there have been things that we have done over the course of even this fiscal crisis that we've been in that I think have helped to improve our retention issues and also help to improve the working conditions for some of our employees. And so I want to give the opportunity to Ryan Alsop, our CAO, if you'd like to walk through some of those.
Sure. Through the chair, Supervisor Scribner, members of the board, just some color commentary here. Dealing with employee issues is really one of the most important and complex, difficult challenges of my office. And we have a very capable Chief Human Resources Officer, Devin Brown, who's in the audience, and he and his team take the lead on that, and obviously I'm involved as well. But it is very difficult it's a difficult undertaking, and it's made more difficult when the county has been in the situation that it has been these past 4 years. We've had very limited ability to do anything. But where we have had the ability, we have attempted, as your board knows, because you ultimately direct and approve all of these things, we've been able to provide deliverables for our various bargaining units. One example is we just recently approved a contract increasing the pay for our sheriff's commanders. We are awaiting a vote increasing the pay of our rank and file sheriff's staff all across the board, that until somebody else comes along and raises their salaries, it will make them the highest paid local law enforcement agency in Kern County and among the highest paid in the valley. So we were able to provide things. We just recently got into a position to do that. All of that is out of our general fund. That has been the fund, along with the fire fund, that's really been in crisis. But for SEIU, I've got to tell you, we agreed to a 2-year contract with them a couple of years ago, and over the course of those 2 years your board has provided many additional deliverables for their union. Just the high level, that union, all members of SEIU were provided a $1,000 bonus. All of their members under that contract, they received an additional 11 paid days off, which is equivalent to a 4.2% total annual salary. Your board has at various times agenda items have been brought before you, increasing between 5% and 25% the salaries of over 1,200 employees, many of those who are in DHS. Last year, we provided 2,200 5% salary step increases. That's a 5% bump in your take-home pay. 2,200 of them last year, and 1,686 of those were SEIU employees. I can run down and break down all of the different deliverables. We did have a human services technician come before your board this morning, provide some testimony. Your board provided human services technicians a 10% increase in 2018 and 19 at DHS. That's 500 employees there. We were able to do a lot of these things because it didn't have an impact on the general fund. These had impacts on other funds. It's important to point out. Just this morning, on this agenda, your board did the following for SEIU, even though you didn't hear anything about it. You approved 3 additional paid days off for winter recess, which is equivalent to a 1% of total salary. And you also approved an 8.5% salary increase for over 100 human services supervisors at DHS. We're doing what we can, where we can. We respect and appreciate all of our employees, particularly those human services workers at DHS. They do difficult jobs, but we're trying to work with them and do what we can where we can. And again, just this morning, even though you didn't hear anything about it, those 2 things were on the consent calendar, along with all these others, which I'm a little frustrated. We didn't hear anything else about those over the last 3 years. But we continue to work. We continue to do what we can for our employees. There is hope. The economy is improving. We're doing a good job with our budgeting. We're making smart decisions. Your board is paving a way for this county that I believe is going to improve this county long term. And there are, I think, exciting days ahead.
Is that all you needed? Okay. Any other, I don't have any other lights on. I believe we had Supervisor Maggard.
Yeah, thank you. Been here 12 years and I've still struggled to find the right buttons from time to time. I wanted to just say thank you to a few people for their work on this. While Mr. Alsop has been here and provided great leadership in the is it 2 years now or 3 that you've been here? Under 3. Just under 3. You've provided great leadership, and so I'm grateful for that. Thank you. The people who have really walked us through this are primarily in the interaction with the board are Nancy and Elsa. So I want to thank you both. I don't know if Elsa's in the room, but please make sure that, oh, there she is. I just want to thank you both for being consistent and steady the whole time with us as we've walked through this. I also want to thank our department heads who have, time after time, as we have pushed you and pushed you and pushed you, you have found a way to come alongside us and help us get through this, so I want to thank them. And I also want to thank our employees. So the consequence of trying harder, more efficient, all those things, eventually bottom line is that pinches our employees, and I want to tell them that I don't take for granted their sacrifices to help us get through this. And I long for the day that we can reward them handsomely as they so deservedly deserve. So thank you very much.
I don't have any other lights on, no other comments to be made. You have told us what you needed for a motion. All we need is someone to act on that.
So moved. Second.
Motion and a second. Please cast your votes.
The motion is approved. All ayes.
Is that all you needed for that?
Yes.
Okay. That takes us to item, is it 106? Yep. This is an update on the operational and fiscal changes within the Kern County Fire Department. Chief Witt is wearing a barber pole today. Morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Board. Thank you for this opportunity to give an update on what we've done within the fire department. When you appointed me interim fire chief in February, I made a pledge to you and the citizens we serve to review all operations and processes in our department, develop innovative ideas, and embrace Lean Six Sigma principles to become a lean and efficient department. I'm happy to report that we are making progress, and I'm confident in our future, and I'm proud of what the men and women of the Kern County Fire Department have done. Okay. It's important to put this in context. Our Calls for service have increased 37% over the last 10 years, but we've still been able to find a significant amount of savings and opportunities. 79 fire department employees have received introductory training in Lean Six Sigma, completed 7 Lean Six Sigma projects and an estimated savings of $625,000, and over 6,000 hours have improved in efficiency. Another notable item, of the 62 recommendations provided by CPSM, 38 have been completed or an evaluation in progress. The department realized a carry fund of over $2 million this year. We're strongly embracing grant funding and opportunities that exist for the fire department. Pursuing Office of Traffic and Safety funding for vehicle rescue tools and equipment at an estimated savings of $40,000. Pursuing an AFG grant to replace rescue tools for $650,000 used on freeways and roads throughout Kern County. Pursuing another AFG Assistance to Firefighter grant to replace our self-contained breathing apparatus. Homeland Security grant funding for thermal imager cameras so we can see inside the house where the fire is to rescue people. An EMPG for mobile and portable radios in the amount of $94,000. And a whole slew of other grants, but these are just to name a few. Within our fleet department, CPSM provided 3 recommendations concerning our fleet. One of those recommendations was to reevaluate the use of custom wildland engines. The department will be building replacement wildland patrols, what we refer to as a Type 6 engine in-house, using local vendors for a savings of $90,000 per unit. We're going to use a local manufacturer to build the bed. We're going to buy the cabin chassis through Ford, and we're going to put this together ourselves. I believe that we can do it, and we're going to do an excellent job. CPSM also recommended expanding our apparatus committee to include a wider range of stakeholders within our department. Through the process, the department has identified lower cost apparatus models for future process savings of $75,000 per unit. We're not going to go with the top of the line cab. We're looking at an entry-level cab. We're looking at the whole fire engine to see where we can save but still be efficient. It's very important to note there's a fine line because within Kern County it's so diverse. Up to 8,000 feet, down as low as 300 feet above sea level. And so we have to have engines that can go up hills, big engines, to carry everything we need to carry, the smaller engines to go in places the bigger engines can't go. And so we have equipment for a specific reason to provide a service within the county. We had a one-time saving on purchase of hazmat vehicles for over $100,000. So through Planning Commission, we were able to purchase a hazmat vehicle. And what we did was we took the spec that we had, we saved $100,000. We're going to use that $100,000 now to buy equipment to put on the hazmat unit to save money. Federal Excess Property Program. We continue to screen and acquire needed vehicles, equipment, and supplies at cost of shipping and transportation. We recently acquired 12 late model Ford 150 pickups at low mileage for the cost of transportation only, saving approximately $75,000, allowing us to replace some of our very high mileage vehicles to use those in lieu of other vehicles to get to where we need to go to save money. Battalion Chief Testing, providing simulation testing to qualify for a written exam 1 time per year instead of 2, which will save approximately $15,000 per year. Managing staffing vacancies. Over the coming year, we will review open positions and hold open to provide a salary savings. Risk management, very important part of the fire department, a costly side of the fire department, risk management. We're actively working with the County Risk Management to reduce the number and associated costs of workplace injuries. We're addressing this by promoting fitness to all field employees, training in job hazard analysis and injury prevention, streamlining the injury process to get employees back to work faster. This is huge for the fire department. We've got to get our employees back to work quicker. We need to effectively work with the doctors of Kern County to get people back on the job quicker. They want to get back on the job quicker, and we need to help facilitate that. Modifying responses by adding personnel to labor-intensive activities that that propose a higher risk of injuries. Training, a focus on reducing overtime is incurred. Utilizing the agreement of Bakersfield College to fund training instructors for our academy. So going through the college, so that Bakersfield College pays for the instruction rather than oftentimes in the past using somebody to come in on their off-duty day to pay overtime. We've saved over $720,000 for fiscal year 18-19 by utilizing the college. Temporary transfer a training captain to a long-term vacant station assignment, saving $150,000. And our fire prevention unit, CPSM, provided 3 recommendations for our fire prevention division that included reorganization of the division, transition of the civilian staff, and consideration of an in-service fire inspection fee. Each of these recommendations has been adopted. The department collaborated with the Human Resource Department and implemented a plan to delete 5 engineer positions and 1 buildings plan technician and replace these positions with 5 fire inspector civilians positions and 1 fire plans examiner for an annual estimated savings of $215,000. In our logistics, you can see the mantra as we go through this. It's in all of our departments, a lot of our departments. In logistics, is following a delivery and routing schedule to reduce fuel and consumption and travel time. This may sound minute, but we're looking at the minute things and we're looking at the big items. Adopting LA County's price agreement for the purchase of our personal protective equipment, our turnouts. First savings of approximately $500 per pair. This equates to a minimum annual savings of $50,000. Through our emergency communications divisions, the people that take the calls that tell us where to go to emergencies, CPSM provided several recommendations regarding emergency communications, the most significant being the deficiencies identified with radio communications. The fire department, along with the CAO's office, is involved with the RFP process, heavily involved with the RFP process to make sure we get this right with such a significant amount of money that will be needed to implement this. The duty officer staffing for fire season was delayed by 1 month, a cost savings of $25,000, and bringing on an engineer into the position also resulted in a cost savings rather than a captain. Our air operations, I know this has been an item of concern for many. Air operations program, we've saved over $1 million. We will through cost savings by cross-staffing our helicopter program at Station 11. And I would like to personally thank everybody at Station 11 who has done more and really stepped up to the occasion. Through our analysis, though, we're going to have to adjust it a little bit here and there to make sure we still meet the needs of the citizens of Kern County as well as the employees. And we'll continually do this. It's been successful. We're adjusting it in the summer. We've had a lot of river rescues. We've had a lot of, our helicopter right now is predominantly used for hoist rescues. Getting people where we wouldn't normally be able to get them out of a situation. We're able to pull them to safety, the lead ship. Also this weekend, we used the helicopter to transport 2 people from Buena Vista that were severely burned, and we saved 30 minutes because other entities were busy. And so it's an important component, saving lots of money, though, with a cross-staffing model. Hand crews. The Kern County Fire Department hand crews are approximately 70% funded through California Disaster Assistance and Climate Investment grant funding for $1 million. I'll be back to your board in a couple weeks to talk about tree mortality issues and what we've done, what the hand crews have done, what the Wildland Department has done to mitigate our tree mortality, $1 million in savings there. Depending on the fire season, the total percentage of the crew funding would increase. This year, a lot of little fires, no big fires. We'll see how that works. A forester held the forester position open and filled with a retired seasonal employee for a cost savings of $160,000. Still actively involved and actively producing for our county. Left our Battalion 8 position, which is in charge of the whole wildland component, open for 6 months for a cost savings of $125,000. We had $75,000 of a savings in fire heavy equipment. We didn't pull in as many people to work on the roads of Kern County as we had in the past. Special operations, we accepted an OES Hazmat 51 vehicle, which comes fully equipped with a built-in replacement schedule if So with OES equipment, it's provided by the state, we agree to respond in that vehicle, but it saves us money in the long run. The OES grant funded also training for hazmat. We need more hazmat technicians to work alongside environmental health and dealing with our hazardous materials incidents. So we'll get that. Corporate communications, 2 extra help positions grant funded through emergency preparedness grant for cost savings of $76,000. We left the public education officer position open for an annual savings of $200,000 with the benefits in the whole package for a total savings of $293,000. Fire investigation unit, we held the battalion chief position open for a cost savings of $125,000. Ongoing savings. Annual savings, ongoing, year after year. Our air operations cross-staffing program, as I alluded to, we're adjusting that as we see fit, but there will be a savings. Fire prevention reorganization, $215,000. Our turnouts of $50,000 for an estimated annual savings of $1.365 million. We're also working on our city agreements. I want to thank the CAO and his staff, Brent and Thomas and the gang for assisting us in looking at how much we charge our contract cities, an important component. This recommendation was also included in the analysis by the CPSM report. Revised prevention fee. The department is in the process of evaluating our current fire prevention fees and anticipates having this project complete prior to the calendar year end. We will have something back to the board to talk about, hopefully by the end of September. Additional Lean Six Sigma programs. The department is embracing Lean Six Sigma process and continuous improvement. We're developing a 5-year strategic business plan. Also included in the recommendations of CPSM was developing a 5-year strategic business plan for KCFD that included scheduled replacement of facility and capital assets. So important for us because for 10 years we've delayed buying fire equipment and building fire stations. The department has hired a consultant to assist the development of the strategic plan has begun the process. The county administrative office is assisting and participating in this process. It's a very open, transparent process, and we're doing it in conjunction with the county's business plan approach as well. We're going to be going to some of the same places. Of the 38 recommendations from our operational analysis, some have been completed and some are evaluations in progress, including several recommendations in the analysis focused on our apparatus purchases. We considered the use of bid purchase programs for medium and heavy apparatus. We have used GSA pricing for many years, saving approximately $23,000 per unit. Reevaluate the purchase practice and consider less expensive apparatus. We have spec'd out a hazmat response vehicle that's $100,000 under original estimate that was used prior to February 1st. We're revising our Type 1 engine specs and should have about $90,000 per unit. Revising our Type 6, we should have about $75,000 per unit. Expanding the apparatus committee, as I alluded to, and adopting a formal price replacement schedule. We're developing a points-based replacement matrix to identify our future apparatus needs. We mentioned the 5-year business plan, the civilian inspectors, utilizing captains and battalion chiefs to perform wildland fire investigations in some cases. Our emergency communication center is working to improve call handling times and pre-alert stations for priority calls. I look forward to presenting a final report, all 62 recommendations identified in the operational analysis by fiscal year end. In closing, I would like to thank the board for your continued support in this operation. It hasn't been easy, but I appreciate your support in keeping all of our fire stations open. I would like to thank the CAO's staff for their continued support in our operations of continuing to make ends meet. The other department heads, working with many other department heads to coincide, work together, build relationships, and get the job done. I would like to thank my staff for their work, endless work in the reorganization process. And last but not least, I would like to thank the whole Kern County Fire Department for embracing this and the culture change and the very steep endeavor of doing more with less, as many other county departments are doing. But they're doing it, and they're doing it well, and I thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Let's open it up to see if there's any comment on this item from the public. Seeing none, I return it to the board for questions, comments, and action. I have a question. I don't want you to build this from the ground up. You said you were going to come back with a final report, probably by the end of the fiscal year, on the CPSM recommendations, the 62 different recommendations. Do you have it, not right now, but do you have it handy where you can show us where you are in each of those?
Yes.
At this point in time? The ones that have been completed, the ones you're still working on, the ones you maybe haven't started yet, and the savings that you have recognized, if there are any. Some might not have any. I'd be interested in seeing that.
Okay, I will get that to you.
Okay, thank you. Any other? Supervisor Scribner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate it. Chief, first of all, great presentation. A lot of very good deliverables that you laid out here. Finding ways to just do things in a more efficient manner, saving some money in some key places, but also maintaining service levels. So that's a hard thing to balance. So well done. I wanted to ask you about the increase in calls for service over the last 10 years. And so just thinking back, that started a little bit before I came on the board, but a 37% increase in calls for service, that's a big increase. Obviously, the population, we've seen some population growth over the course of that time. The big boom was a few years earlier than that. How much of that is attributed to, I guess a better way of asking this is how do you attribute that number? I mean, obviously the calls for service is easy to track, but the increase, where do you think that increase has come from? Because we've built, I think, one new station, and it's Golden Hills, and it was originally a seasonal station, and it's not a true fire station yet. We're operating out of a trailer, but that's one station that we started seasonal. The calls for service were higher than anticipated, and so you've chosen to keep that station open. So I'm trying to think of any other new stations that we built, but I know that we did assume, I believe, fire service in Taft, and then maybe a few years earlier than that into Hatchby. So there was some territory that we kind of took over that had a station. So how do you kind of break that out? Is this?
So I think it's a variety of items, Supervisor, through the chair, a variety of items that have contributed to this population increase that you've alluded to, as well as we notice on the freeways and our roads, there's a lot more people that are traveling through Kern County.
Okay.
And so that's a component. We have only added one station, so that increases the workload and decreases the amount that we can adjust, all important, that we're working through. So there's a wide variety of components that have increased our call volume. Just with increased people, we're going to have increased calls, and we're going to have increased vehicle accidents, increased hazmat spills, increased fires, various types of fires, and medical emergencies.
And am I remembering that correctly, though, that a couple of cities, they had their own fire departments and then chose to contract with us? I don't remember.
Yes, Tehachapi chose to contract with us, and Taft chose to.
Those are the two that I listed. I was trying to remember the years that that occurred.
I think it was greater than 10 years ago.
You think it was earlier?
Yes.
Okay.
We think it was greater than 10 years ago.
Okay. I was just wondering how much that might be a factor for those calls for service increase.
With that transition, we didn't increase staff at that particular point in time, and so there was increased volume at those two specific locations, but as the county as a whole, there's been a tremendous increase.
Okay. Thank you, Chief. Appreciate it.
I don't see any other lights. Supervisor Gleason.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thanks, Chief. Nice tie.
Thank you.
Enjoyed your presentation. I got a couple questions. These are the things that jumped out at me. There's 1.365 annual savings. That's completed or it's in process?
That's it. That's in the process.
When is that going to be completed?
That'll be completed at the end of this fiscal year. However, last fiscal year, we saved a significant amount of money through this process, well over $500,000. That was evidence in our carry forward that we had.
The 38 programs, recommendations by CPSM, 62, that's not a bad batting average, 38 out of 62, more than 500. But that was like 3 years ago. So I'm assuming that the delta between the 62, the 24 that you have not mentioned are being resolved, or is out of your ability to resolve as a police chief, fire chief, is that correct?
It's a, you know, we need to get the number right so we can effectively and efficiently implement certain projects. It takes people to implement these projects because it's a way of changing the way we do business. And so we need people. We're in the process of securing a command staff, so we have people to help us implement and get it ready. We're going to, you know, we'll continue working at the others. There were a few identified that that don't make sense. But by and large, you know, we're continually checking away and implementing.
Okay. The 5-year plan. You've begun development of a 5-year plan, I assume?
We've started that, yes.
Is one of the tenets, one of the strategic tenets of your 5-year plan to completely eliminate the structural deficit?
Most assuredly, that is our goal, to incorporate our mission in developing our mission and what all of our constituents within the county want and see, and developing it in an economically efficient way and doing away with the fiscal deficit as we see it.
And do you have a timeline for that?
Right now, we're working through this process. The next couple years are going to be difficult, but we see an opening. We see this opening within 3 years that we anticipate being very close.
So you understand from the questions you're hearing up here that we are vitally concerned and anxious for the complete resolve of that structural deficit. It's an imperative. And we hear and see some things going on over there that are very positive, and we're very thankful, but we're also, our skeptical nature of this whole deal is still there, and we got to resolve that, we got to fix that. So what I want to say, understanding that, is that I believe in the cultural change that you've instilled in the fire department. I hear it, I see it, I understand you are saying a bunch of things, and you're having difficulty, not difficulty, but there are sometimes you're having difficulty in grabbing hold of the real change, the real thing, and I understand that true leadership has to go through that process in order to change the culture. I guess what I'm telling you is I believe in you. I think you're doing the job that we need to have done over there, and I'm very thankful you're the man in charge. And I'm anxious to resolve that mitigation as soon as possible. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Supervisor. Any other comments from the board? If not, all we need is a motion to receive and file, correct?
So moved.
Second.
Please cast your votes.
Thank you, Chief. Excuse me, Chairman, for a moment, if
Sure.
you'll indulge me. Chief, thank you. First of all, that's the best suit I've seen in Kern County in some time. No offense to Ryan Alsop, who usually takes that card, but you look great. I think your people believe in you. That makes me believe in you. And of course, I think you really care about that department and you're leading. I want you to know I personally, and I believe my colleagues, are committed to your men and women. Sometimes we have a tenuous relationship. That's the nature of the hats we wear. I don't take it personal. I don't think you do either. We really want to get to good harmony. And I think you're the right person for the job. And especially if you keep dressing like that, you're really, we may see you running for political office soon. And maybe you should. But anyway, hats off.
Thank you.
Has everyone cast their votes?
Supervisor Perez, thank you.
There we go.
The motion is approved, all ayes.
Thank you. That is the end of today's agenda. We just need a motion to adjourn to closed session, correct?
So moved. Good job, Nancy.
Without objection, we're adjourned. Thank you.